just makes a whole lot more sense. It's not the ground itself is stationary. The ground isn't spinning. It's a flat, stationary plane. It just is. It provably is. Again, the flight times proves it. The lack of curvature proves it. The lack of the horizon raising with your eye all the way up to 10, 20, 30, 40 miles. The only evidence we have of curvature is from NASA footage from the 1970s. Other than that, maybe something from the Chinese, the Japanese more recently. But that's really pretty much it. Um, we can test for curvature, we can measure for curvature here on the ground in reality, and it actually doesn't exist. So we're really stuck with this conclusion that not only is the Earth lacking all curvature, but it also lacks orbital and rotational motion. It just isn't moving. It isn't a globe. So, anyways, okay. That's the Coriolis effect, by the way. I've actually dealt with it in several videos, so I'm glad you're looking into this, Ron. Just maybe check out some more stuff, do some experiments, look at some more proofs, and I'm sure that you'll be on the right track. There's no Mr. Puniverse. There's no truth in flat Earth. The sun path over Australia, New Zealand, and Africa totally debunk the flat Earth. They won't tell you this though. Well, I'll just say no, it doesn't because I don't. You're not making any sense. You're just making a claim without any sort of evidence to back it up, but that's okay. Really enjoy your videos and insight. Well, thanks, John Cumby. I appreciate it. You started studying about Rome in 1998, felt like they were behind everything, but I didn't know completely what their goal was until Flat Earth. I'm going to side with science on this. Always look at the first cause. Rome knows where the bodies are buried, they hold the keys, etc. I believe the Freemasons are like so many other groups that are just not used by Rome to fulfill their evil purposes. When it comes to America or anything that has happened in the last 500 years, my question is it organic or manufactured? Was this country created for evil purposes that has just been hijacked? Same can be asked about everything. Well, what I believe, and it is sort of irrelevant, but from what I can distill, is that free people actually realized that they could get away from the feudal system, the caste system that was prevalent in Europe prior to the founding of America, and apparently they set up a system of government that was designed to keep basically the Catholic Church out of people's business. Really, America was set up as a Protestant movement away from the Catholic Church, protesting the Catholic Church. Uh, the Roman Catholic Church is definitely responsible for a lot of evil in this world throughout history and to the very present day. They are still Rome. They've just changed their masks and changed their outfits. They dress up in robes. They dress up like mushrooms. Um, and yeah, I mean, I definitely see what you're saying. No, I don't think that America was set up for evil purposes, but I think that at some point in history, for example, George Washington wasn't the first president. He was just the first Freemasonic president. There was actually several presidents prior to George Washington that were elected in the Republic. But yeah, over time, we've gotten further and further away from what the country was originally set up to represent and set up to uphold, which was basically the power remaining with the people, not going to the select few elite, which again we're stuck with. We basically it's now a corporate fascist dictatorship, and so many other things. I mean, it has socialist aspects to it. America does, and other faces or other masks that it likes to put on, depending on who they're trying to pander to at the moment. But at the end of the day, no, I don't think it was originally set up that for that purpose. But obviously, we've forgotten history, and we've allowed the same forces that we basically fled to take control. And I think this probably goes back to as far as the likes of Benjamin Franklin, who was, as far as I can tell, probably a shill. He was working with the crown, and he's remembered as a one of our founding fathers, so to speak. Um, Andrew Jackson, on the other hand, was famous for saying on his deathbed that his most finest achievement in his life, or that which he was most proud of, was that he killed the bank. So, and again, we're dealing with central banks again, and so he didn't kill it. I think it was sort of like the end of a horror movie where you think you killed Jason, and then he gets up and like chops everyone's head off. Yeah, so not so much killed the bank, but he basically didn't do that good of a job. He just kept it at bay for a while. Lost soul, all money equals work equals lives wasted. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, we are definitely enslaved to a debt system. So I definitely see what you're saying. It would seems you are a sealed, pressurized system. Well, it would have to be in the heliocentric model because infinite space is a vacuum. But I don't think it is. I think that's wrong. I don't think that space is an infinite vacuum. Um, but again, we'd have to be sealed off from that. Our atmosphere couldn't exist adjacent to a vacuum without being sealed off. Now, in the flat Earth model, a lot of people will purport there's a dome in the sky, which I don't think there actually is anything physical in the sky. There may be. I don't think there is. There is pretty good evidence for electromagnetic fields being generated by the face of the Earth, sort of causing an aura from the Earth, emanating from the Earth. Such electromagnetic fields and ionized plasma in the lower magnetosphere could sort of keep our atmosphere in place, but I don't see it being impossible for there to be atmosphere outside of our little solar system area, outside of our little puddle. The plane that our world is nestled in could stretch out to infinity. So it could be an enclosed system, or it could stretch out to infinity, or anything in between. I personally do not think it's an enclosed system at all. I think that's just a deception. To me, the main motive for the deception of the globe is to basically imprison our minds on a place that we can never escape from a globe. And if you put a dome around us and a dome beneath us, then you basically just put us in a globe. Same thing goes for the concave model. Very last point is such a good one. We waste so much genius in this world because we serve the almighty dollar. Every aspect of our life, the rulers direct everything through their currency, which is supported by our backs when we work, and they steal it back, a never ending fear of poverty cycle. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. I agree. They manipulate the schools through funding, etc. No time to find our Father in heaven through Jesus. Yeah, and I think the issue of separation of church and state has sort of been manipulated into our current understanding of it. Um, I think that had more to do with separating, keeping the Vatican out of political affairs, which is a really good idea. It really, really is. Um, didn't the Israelites march around a certain city and cause its walls to collapse through sound, perhaps circling tuned the ground? Yeah, they used. Obviously, it was one of the powers of the Ark of the Covenant, I believe. But they sounded trumpets. Yeah, they used trumpets to break the walls of Jericho, I believe. But yeah, that's true. That's a good thing to point out. I believe there were some horns involved. I could be wrong. The parable where the vineyard owner leases out the vineyard and Paul and his group and the Pharisees destroying Jesus are a mirror, much like the globe lies. Yeah, trying to think of the parable. Anyway, false apostle Paul was a front man for the Pharisees. They sent him off with letters. Hmm. Yeah, wasn't he the one that like supposedly wound up in India? I don't know. Frequency makes sense, right? Yep. Word. Lost soul all over the place. I really appreciate all your comments, and I'm not sure why they filtered you out. So um, I'm really sorry about that, Lost Soul. It wasn't me. It's just you can see Google filtered it all out. I'm just gonna allow all these, but how close am I to the bottom of this, or does it never stop? Oh, there's okay. So fake space cadet. Oh God, another one of those. Fake spaceman in space. All those little fake accounts. Really, so how to A to Z ATS so accurate and detailed work with getting me from A to B. Oh, A to Z Atlas. Sorry. Okay. I think flat earthers are disrespecting the map makers, giving us detailed maps to travel anywhere in the world. How do you travel anywhere and get your destinations when everything is fake? Well, see, here's the thing, fake space cadet. The Mercator projection, for example, was designed to work. Now, how people navigate, especially back then when they were making those maps, was by the stars. That's how we figure out our latitude and longitude lines. That's how we figure out time is based on solar calculations and astronomical calculations. Okay, so in order to get a map to work, all you have to do is to maintain, and what they did with the Mercator projection was maintain lines of constant course using loxodromes. Okay, and the Mercator projection is a cylindrical conformal map. Really, same thing with the Peters projection. It's still a cylindrical conformal map, but it is a little bit more accurate, and it obviously still works. But even the Peters projection, I don't believe, is an accurate representation of the ground because it takes the presumption that the Earth is a globe with a North Pole axis and a South Pole axis, and what people that actually navigate the Southern Hemisphere have found, and there haven't been too many of those sort of free roamers since the 1800s and before that. But what they found is that the Southern Hemisphere is much longer around than the Northern Hemisphere is. The circumference is greater as you go south of the equator. And so that means that those longitude lines are not converging back into a point at the bottom of the sphere. That means that the circumference of the latitude rings are not getting smaller and smaller as you get down toward the bottom of the sphere, because it isn't a sphere. Will the maps work? Sure. Yeah, the maps will still work. If you notice, the map is actually a plane, and it works on a globe. Then I don't see what you're saying that if the map is a plane, it couldn't work on a plane. Um, we have a lot to learn in terms of, what does the face of the Earth actually look like. But, really up until this point, up until NASA allegedly, we've only been able to calculate it and estimate it based on astronomical observations. When NASA beams us back pictures of continents that look exactly like the Mercator projection, then we have a problem because we already know by definition the Mercator projection is a cylindrical conformal map, which means it is sort of correct towards the equator and least correct at the poles where it is skewed to infinity. The 90-degree north and 90-degree south latitude points are supposedly stretched out to infinity, and the equator is mostly accurate. Okay, getting less and less accurate as you get north or south of the equator, up to the point that you get to either pole where it is least accurate. So, again, it's sort of a non-argument. The maps work. The maps worked throughout history, even when people knew the Earth was flat. The maps worked then. And the only way that you can get the maps to work on a globe is by skewing the distances around. And that's why we have all the issues with the maps, is because all of the ancient cartographers apparently allegedly assumed the Earth to be a globe. Now, I'm not so sure about that. Gerardus Mercator came up with the Mercator projection in the 1500s, and Newton's famous Principia, which sort of described the laws of physics, hadn't even been written yet. And I just well, and also I can point to the Mercator flat Earth azimuthal equidistant sort of projection, and so to me there's good evidence to support the idea that Mercator was actually a flat earther. He didn't think it was a globe at all. So perhaps the Mercator projection is correct, but then the Earth still isn't a globe. So I don't know. I'm not sure what your deal is, fake space. Anyway. Oh, well, thanks, Armal's job. Create these kind of videos. Thanks for the great information. Well, you're welcome, and I appreciate it. Appreciate the thanks. Thanks so much for watching. Not many talk about the Fuller projection. Okay, let's take a look at that. Right track. There's no Mr. Puniverse. There's no truth in flat Earth. The sun path over Australia, New Zealand, and Africa totally debunk the flat Earth. They won't tell you this though. Well, I'll just say no, it doesn't, because I don't. You're not making any sense. You're just moving. It isn't a globe. So, anyways, okay. That's the Coriolis effect, by the way. I've actually dealt with it in several videos, so I'm glad you're looking into this, Ron. Just maybe check out some more stuff, do some experiments, look at some more proofs, and I'm sure that you'll be on the right. It provably is. Again, the flight times proves it. The lack of curvature proves it. The lack of the horizon raising with your eye all the way up to 10, 20, 30, 40 miles. The only evidence we have of curvature is from NASA footage from the 1970s. Other than that, maybe some. It just makes a whole lot more sense. It's not the ground itself is stationary. The ground isn't spinning. It's a flat, stationary plane. It just is. It's from the Chinese, the Japanese more recently. But that's really pretty much it. Um, we can test for curvature. We can measure for curvature here on the ground in reality, and it actually doesn't exist. So we're really stuck with this conclusion that not only is the Earth lacking all curvature, but it also lacks orbital and rotational motion. It just isn't